In this video, we'll walk through the who, what, where, when, how, and why of speech practice. When we talk about speech practice, we mean what happens outside of the therapy session with the SLP. This is an important message about the following content. Please pause and take time to review. Let's start off with a review. Speech is how we say sounds and words. There are different parts of speech, like the accuracy of our sounds, or articulation, patterns of speech, or phonological processes, coordination or sequencing of speech movements. We call this motor speech. And the smoothness and forward movement of sounds, or fluency. In this video, when we say speech, we're referring to speech that is accurate and easy to understand. Please check in with your SLP to see if this video is right for you. Our goal in speech practice is usually to get clear speech in conversations. Clear speech involves motor movements, and it's not just about thinking or behaving. Clear speech is often automatic, meaning we don't think about the movements or coordination needed to say our sounds correctly. Finally, there are many steps that come before using clear speech in conversation, which we call the speech stairs. Speech is a motor skill. Just like any other motor skill, say learning to ride a bike, a lot goes into practice and being successful. Let's start with who can do speech practice. Parents, siblings, caregivers, and educators can all play an important role in speech practice. Think about who would be best for the speaker to practice with. What to focus on in speech practice really depends on the individual speaker. Your SLP will give you the information you need on what to practice outside of therapy. In general, we need to be on the right step of the speech stairs. The speech stairs describes the steps it takes to use clear speech in conversation. These stairs are predictable and generally the same for all speakers. SLPs sometimes refer to this as the speech hierarchy. It's helpful to think of it like an actual staircase that you're trying to help someone climb. Everyone starts at the bottom and works their way up to the top. The speech stairs apply to articulation, phonological processes, and motor speech, but we will focus on articulating the S sound as an example. First, we have the sound by itself. S. The sound in a syllable could be sa, su, or say. In words, the sound could be at the beginning, the middle, or the end. For example, listen for the S sound. In the word see, it's at the beginning. Pencil, it's in the middle. Class, it's at the end. The sound may also be in consonant clusters, for example, in the word straw or smile. Usually, individual sounds at the beginning of a word is easier, but not always. Your child's SLP will guide you to what word position it would be best to start with. Next, we move up to phrases. That's generally 2 or 4 words together and can be in a set phrase like, I'm sorry, or I see the snow. Sentences are longer, often more spontaneous thoughts. For example, I was thinking about making a sandwich. Being able to produce a sound at the conversational level is the hardest, not because of the length of the sentences, but because the speaker's often thinking about what they want to say. They're not necessarily thinking about how to say it. We want to move to the next step once the speaker is successful at the current step. Usually, we say someone's ready to move on to the next step when they are correct about 80% of the time, or 8 out of 10 opportunities, for a few practice sessions in a row. We don't want to move up the steps before they're ready. If we are on the wrong step or too many steps ahead, we won't be able to reach them to help. What you should do when practicing often depends on what step you're on and will be guided by your speech language pathologist. A structured activity is a planned activity that you are using to specifically practice speech. It might be a game or a book reading activity. Often these activities will include specific target sounds, words, or strategies that you're working on. A successful structured activity is something that's fun, it's motivating, it has a clear ending, and it allows both you and the speaker to take turns. Talk to your SLP about what structured activities might work for you. Some ideas include board games or card games where you have to take turns, using stickers or stamps to get a reward, a treat, or something special at the end, throwing a ball back and forth and saying the speech target each time, playing a game like I Spy, I See, or I Found, reading a book together, or you might work through some worksheets or digital resources that have been sent to you to practice. You may also practice in everyday situations, like getting dressed, preparing meals, or running errands. For example, your child could say the word sock whenever they put their socks on in the morning. You can also plan to practice the specific sounds or strategies, and you should still have clear expectations. Here's an example. You could say, try using your sounds when you video call your cousin today. Or, let's practice when we're driving to school. Practicing in the mirror is a great way to remember and a great way to have the speaker look and make sure they're getting it right. Next, where should we practice? Again, it depends on what step you're on in the speech stairs. But in general, you should choose somewhere that helps the speaker concentrate, really allows the speaker to pay attention to what you're saying and how your mouth is moving. Somewhere that limits distractions like siblings, screens, or fatigue, and allows you to sit face to face, like on the bus, or if you're sitting together at the kitchen table. Our goal is to practice for about 5 to 10 minutes, 3 times a week. To decide when to practice, think about a time of day that works for you and the speaker to practice. Practice is often easiest to plan for and remember when it's a part of your routine. For example, every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, or every night when you read a book before bed. Choose a time that the speaker will be the most successful. For example, avoid times that they would be extra hungry or distracted. You might want to talk to the speaker about what time they feel might be best. Now for the big stuff. How do you actually practice? There are 5 things to consider when looking at how to practice speech. We are going to talk about each one. First, it is important that you're on the right step. Your SLP will guide you to the step you should be working on. You might also do some experimenting to see what step the speaker seems to do really well on and where they seem to make more mistakes. Always start on a step when there is already some success. Next, you can plan out your structured or everyday activity. We need to plan out the expectations and clearly communicate them to the speaker. For example, you might say, we're going to practice our th sound for the next 5 minutes while we play this game. Before you take your turn, you will copy 3 words with the th sound. You could also say, we're going to practice moving our lips for the next 5 minutes while we play with Play-Doh. While we play, we will take turns saying I see using words with our lip sounds. The third thing is cues and comments. This is what happens before and after the target we're working on. The target might be a sound, a word, a movement pattern, or a strategy at a specific step of the speech stairs. Your SLP will assess and guide the specific target. Cues are what happen before the speaker takes their turn. They give information or reminders to help the speaker be successful. They range from more to less supportive. It's important to use the right amount and type of cueing. Too many cues would lead to difficulty moving up the speech stairs, and too little can lead to frustration and reduced success. Here are some common cues, from the most supportive at the bottom to the least supportive at the top. Let's start from the top and we'll work our way back. Spontaneous is when the speaker can say the sound without your help or any cues. For example, a child sees a sock and says, sock. This often, but not always, is what we're hoping for. Next, you can give a reminder to use the target sound. For example, remember to use your S sound. A visual cue demonstrates the movement or the position of your mouth. It could also be a visual sign or cue that you use. For example, putting your index finger to the lips for the quiet sound, shh. A verbal cue is an instruction of where to put the articulators or parts of the mouth. Example, remember your tongue's up behind your teeth for S. Giving a model is when you say the sound in a bit of an exaggerated way. For example, by slowing it down or stretching it out. For example, sock. Remember, our goal is to provide the cue that allows the speaker success most of the time. If they make a mistake, you can repeat with a more supportive cue. And if they continuously get it right, you can use a less supportive cue. Your SLP will guide you as to what cues to use and when to move to the next step of the speech stairs. After the cues and the speaker has their turn, saying their attempt, we need to comment. Our comments help the speaker become aware of their errors, how to correct them, and lets them know if they're on the right track. If the speaker doesn't know what they're supposed to do, or if they're not doing it correctly, they will become frustrated. Good comments have 3 parts. They are specific, immediate, and consistent. Being specific is being very clear and focusing on the positives. Remember to comment regardless of the mistakes they might make. You could say, nice trying, or I see you're working hard, if there is a mistake. Avoid things like, not like that, or try it again. And don't say, good job, if they did make a mistake, or lead them to believe that the mistake was right. We want the speaker to understand what getting it right means by giving specific comments like, I heard you using your sound, or wow, your tongue stayed hidden when you said the S sound there, or oops, I didn't hear your F sound that time. Let's try it again with lots of air. Here's a mom and daughter practicing the SH sound, the sh sound, with a homemade matching game. In this video, listen and look for how mom uses cues and comments.
So we're going to try and find a match, right? And we're practicing our shh sound, right? Our SH sound, our shh sound with round lips, okay? So you pick a card and then see what we find. What did you get? You got? Oh, and I saw you use your round lips. Good job. Okay, let's see. Which other one are you going to pick? You pick shapes. Hey, you found a match. You got it. All right. So we're going to try and find a match, right? And we're practicing our...
We saw mom use visual and verbal cues and provide specific and immediate feedback when her daughter used her round lips.
See what we find.
They also had fun together. The fourth thing is repeat, repeat, repeat. Repetition is often key to learning a new movement pattern. For example, once we know how to pedal a 2-wheel bike and practice a lot, we can do that movement automatically without thinking. Once the speaker is able to say their target at a specific step, you may have them repeat 3 to 5 times, one after the other. Like this: sock, 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 sock. SLPs sometimes call this drill practice. This type of repetition helps movement patterns become more automatic. This isn't the only approach, but it is an effective approach in speech therapy. Your SLP will confirm that this repetition is appropriate for the specific target you're working on. Finally, you are ready to move on to the next step and start it all over again. Your SLP will help guide you on when to move to the next step, but in general, we say someone's ready to move on to the next step when they are correct 80% of the time, or 8 out of 10 opportunities for a few practice sessions in a row. There are many parts to practicing speech at home. Talk to your speech language pathologist if you have any questions. This is our final question to answer. Why is practice so important? Let's review a few reasons. Did you know short bursts of practice a few times a week is as effective as the actual SLP's therapy session? Did you know that some steps of the speech stairs, particularly conversation, is most effectively practiced outside of therapy with different people in different speaking situations? And did you know that parents, caregivers, and educators can improve speech using the information outlined in this video? These are just a few reasons why you may practice speech outside of the speech therapy session. Another reason is the number of repetitions needed to learn a new speech sound or movement pattern. While it's difficult to determine what each individual speaker will need or how they will respond to speech therapy, the research tells us it may take approximately 2,000 accurate repetitions of a target to really make that speech sound automatic. It can take up to 35,000 repetitions or attempts to move from the sound step at the bottom all the way up to conversation. Simply put, more speech practice outside of therapy means less therapy overall and clearer speech in conversation. In many situations, your SLP may help you get started and then pass it over to you. Think about it like taking the training wheels off when we are learning to ride a bike. For example, once a speaker is able to say words or phrases with limited cues, or even spontaneously, we might take off the training wheels and leave it to you to practice the rest of the steps. We have covered a lot of information. Here are some reminders. You can pause here and read them over. If you are unclear about anything in this video, or if you have any questions, please talk to your SLP. Have fun practicing speech at home, and thank you for watching.